Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And we're alone today.
Yeah.
We mentioned on the show yesterday that there was like some big windstorms going out, so that's why Chris didn't drive out. Well, now you've probably seen in the news, there's a lot of fires going on. Mark Hamill, Eugene Levy, Jamie Lee Curtis, like a whole bunch of people have had to abandon their homes. There are a number of fires raging in LA. And while Jonathan's house is not in a fire evacuation area, the community to his left and his right are under evacuation warnings. His isn't, but we thought it would be a good idea, and Jonathan thought it would be a good idea for him to stay home today just in case the warnings come in and they need to get out of there. As of right now, him and his family and his house are totally good, but we just thought it would be a good precautionary thing. Now, as far as where we are east, well east of LA, about an hour east. So as of right now, we're not under any warnings or anything like that. Still have a lot of wind out here, but that is why Jonathan is not here today. So everybody keep Jonathan and his family in your thoughts, and we will update you all tomorrow. Hopefully the windstorms will be died down by later tonight, and that will alleviate a lot of the fire problems. Anyway, guys, but we are here still to talk about the news and movies and entertainment, and here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics that we've got listed off for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, comment, or question for the show that you'd like to see us address, go ahead and send it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Now, here's the good news about the tip link. It's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be listening to our podcast a little bit later in the day, either on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, or maybe if you watch this video a little bit later in the day when we're not live, you can still send in a topic or question using this tip link anytime 24/7, and we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode, provided that we deem your comment or question appropriate to be addressed on our show. We reserve the right to not address something if we don't feel we need to. Anyway, guys, with that all down, let's get things started with this, shall we? You know, the other day it came out on IMDb that the number one most anticipated movie of the year, according to all of IMDb's data, was Superman, which is great. That goes along with Fandango and all that kind of stuff too. So Superman surprisingly being the most anticipated movie of the year. Well, IMDb also put out now a list of the most anticipated series of 2025. And it came as a little bit of a surprise. The number one most anticipated series coming up, according to IMDb, is Daredevil Born Again. As a matter of fact, as we take it, let's go down the list here that they have for Daredevil, or for their most anticipated series. So according to IMDb, the number one most anticipated series is Daredevil Born Again. Number two is Alien Earth, which I'm surprised that ranked that high. Number three is It, Welcome to Derry. Knew that would be high. Suits LA, which I also believe would be high. Number five is the new Game of Thrones show, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. At number six, American Primeval, which I finally saw the trailer to that. That looks vicious. I am actually kind of intrigued by it. Number seven, a show I have zero interest in, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series. Number eight, NCIS, Tony and Ziva. I don't know who any of those people are.
Isn't that a requirement every year to have an NCIS on there?
It does kind of feel like there needs to be either a Law
CSI,
and Order,
CSI, or
NCI. Like one of those has to be on there. It seems like it's some kind of a law. Number nine is a show I've never heard of, but El Turco. It looks like it's going to be a professional wrestling show. I don't know. El Turco. And number 10, again, not on my list, Ironheart. So there we go. Those are the 10 most anticipated. Now, I think all of us knew there was going to be a lot of excitement about Daredevil Born Again. But for it to come out for IMDb, say, according to all their data and all their analytics, that Daredevil Born Again is their number one most anticipated series, which
Little
is,
yeah,
it
little
puts the
surprising.
pressure on them though.
It's a little surprising, meaning because Marvel. What was the last Marvel show that was on Disney Plus? That they what if there was What If?
Well,
right?
Agatha was the last Marvel show. Yeah.
I'm still kind of shocked that it's number one. I had no idea they're making a It series. That's the Pennywise, right?
Yep. Welcome to Derry.
And number two was
Alien Earth, the new Aliens show, where this time the aliens are on Earth.
I'm kind of surprised that's a little bit higher than I thought it would be.
Me too, to be honest.
If I reshuffled that, I would have thought maybe the Game of Thrones would have been number one.
I thought the new Game of Thrones show would be higher. Like I absolutely.
Oh yeah, at least
Night
higher.
of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been higher, but
Out of that list, do you see any other one of those shows taking that number one spot?
I mean,
Because I'm shocked, but then when you read the list, I'm like, what would I replace number one with? You know what I mean?
I'm not sure because I don't think there's not a new season of House of the Dragon this year. I don't think. Okay, I'm surprised, but I think this might be a list of original series because I'm surprised that Last of Us, but that is a season. Because if you look at this list, none of these are season twos.
Right. So
I think
get it.
I'm guessing NCIS, Tony and Ziva.
Yeah, it's a spinoff.
I think that's a new show, a spinoff. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a season two. So, like, obviously, Alien Earth is a new series. Welcome to Derry is a new series. So I'm guessing they mean by that, they mean most anticipated. Yeah, it says right there, new TV.
So I guess if you shuffle those around anyway, well, at least the top four, I wouldn't have a problem with any of them taking number one. It wouldn't be.
Now, but that brings up an issue though. If it's new TV series, should Daredevil be allowed to be on this list?
That's what I was thinking for a second, but then I said, you know what? There's not enough time in the day, so I'm just not gonna
worry about it. I mean, I guess technically it is a new show,
new platform, same actors.
same actors, but it's a different. The show is not called Daredevil.
Yeah,
it's called
written
Daredevil
differently.
Born Again.
So,
it's a brand new show.
There is a little loophole Daredevil went in through. Right
Little
there.
loophole.
A little loophole. I can't wait to talk about my little loophole for the next topic.
All right. Well,
all
speaking of which, let's get on to the next topic. So, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? According to IMDb and all the data that they've assembled, the number one most anticipated new show is Daredevil Born Again. Of course, you know, we're very excited about seeing it. What do you think about that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, there's a new movie coming out called Wolfman, and it looks really good. I remember right back at CinemaCon, they showed us the first preview for Wolfman, and it was like when the little girl's like, Daddy, and her dad is turning, it was like, holy crap, this looks gruesome.
I must have fallen asleep or something because I don't remember it. Right now, before the show started, I watched the trailer. And
yeah,
it
they
felt
put out
like,
another trailer
It
recently.
felt like it was the first trailer that I've seen from it. And I got to say one thing, or three words, oh, hell no. And then I'll add two to that. I'm good. I think this is, just from the trailer, I think my second butthole came out. And I don't want that mysterious second butthole that comes out whenever you're really scared during a movie where you feel like you're going to crap all over yourself. That's when the second butthole comes out. This trailer just by itself, I was like, this is not going to be a fun ride. It's going to be a sweaty, like kind of peek through your hands. Or it looks terrifying. It looks tense. It's like suspenseful. Oh man, I don't even know if I could watch this movie. That's how scary this trailer was to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty terrifying trailer. It really is. And well, now it's getting ready to come out. The first reviews and reactions to Wolfman are coming out, and they're saying it's brutal, gory, terrifying, and surprisingly, a number of them mentioned emotional, which I guess I kind of caught on with that when they showed us the stuff with the little girl. But anyway,
yeah.
Let's go over this. A comic book movie gathered together some of the first reactions that are coming out. They're saying that Rachel Leichman wrote, Wolfman will leave you afraid of the dark. Watch this movie with my feet up on the air because I was terrified of what could grab my ankles. That's. I'm not going to say what I'm. No, never mind. Just a suspenseful thrill from start to finish. Christopher Abbott is a star, and I love him so much. All right, next. We got Benjamin Watts, who writes, Wolfman movie howls with raw emotion and haunting intimacy. Lee Whannell, who, by the way, is the director of this film, crafts a storm of grief and ferocity, echoing the shadowy elegance of The Invisible Man from 2020. That movie was great, by the way. If that film resonated with you, Wolfman movie 25 will leave its mark just as deeply. All right. Peter Gray writes, 2025 is off to a great start with the Wolfman movie. Lee Whannell trims all the fat and lays out a tense, no-nonsense thriller that wraps its animalistic telling in a story about relationship dynamics, loss, and generational trauma. Pristine sound design and organic scares all around. Griffin Schiller writes, Lee Whannell continues to be the master of space and sound with Wolfman, a damn good reimagining that plays like The Shining by way of The Fly. A claustrophobic parental panic attack with nasty body horror and a surprising amount of heart. If you enjoyed The Invisible Man, he's the other guy to kind of compare it to The Invisible Man, you'll like Wolfman. Anthony wrote, Wolfman is scary and heartwarming. Some of the best jump scares I've had watching a horror movie in a while. Yeah. The prosthetics are insane. The acting is great, but the amount of times I had to close my eyes in fear/disgust is what stuck with me leaving the theater.
It sounds great.
Sounds right up Ray. And I want to take Chris Carr to go see this.
Oh no! Oh no!
I want to take Chris Carr to go see this movie.
You can want a lot of things.
I want you and Chris Carr to go see this movie. All right, let's keep going with a couple more of the reactions here. Nick Libero writes, Wolfman is a tense, straightforward thriller that sees Christopher Abbott unleash the battle between human and animal through his strong performance. Julia Garner is the heart of humanity of the drama. Lee Whannell's insane visual and auditory creativity is amazing. The last one we'll read here is Hunter Bolding wrote, Wolfman is everything that I wanted and then some. A truly excellent horror film that gives you body horror, familial horror, and some gruesome effects. The entire cast is excellent, but Christopher Abbott takes it up to another level with his classic character. All right. So, you know, when we saw the first previews for it at CinemaCon last year, I remember thinking this looks really good, but it looks so small scale. Like, it's not a Wolfman, at least what they showed us in the previews and everything, rampaging through a city, tearing hundreds of people apart. Like, it looks like a guy, his wife, and his daughter, and it's going to be like a really intimate thing. And I thought, this looks like it'd be pretty good, but I don't know if it'll please the wider crowds. The trailers have knocked it out of the park, as far as I'm concerned. And it sounds like from the first reactions that people are having, it's sounding that they're really liking it. Like, if you had to, Ray, say the thing that stood out to you that you really liked about the trailers, what looks I know you're saying hell no, but what looks actually appealing in it for you?
The fact that they're stuck in this place, this small building house with someone they don't know what's like, someone that they think is supposed to protect them.
Yeah.
And then now they have to actually protect themselves from him. And then you could go into like deeper meanings about other things, but that just being enclosed in an area where you're trying to run from something that you love at the same time is it's a dynamic that's could be pulled off really well in horror. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, if this schedule is still right and we get The Bride movie, which is supposed to be the Frankenstein, in December, let's say this one is good. Let's say The Bride is good. Yeah. Is it time to dust off that Dark Universe poster that we took a long time ago?
Oh my God. Yeah, because Universal, man, the funny thing is that whole Dark Universe thing, that has got to be one of the biggest cinematic falling on your faces thing ever.
The counting your chickens before they
hatch. Yeah, because I mean, I know we talk about it all the time, but the whole thing about Universal rolled out like cast pictures for like films 3, 4, and 5 before the first movie ever even came out. And they were like, because remember they had, I keep forgetting.
You get it though, right, John? You get it. They have this all-star cast, and they have this franchise of Universal monsters that they love. To get a little excited about that thing, I could see why they did it, but then it really bit them in the ass. Like
because again, it's all summed up in that one picture. And unfortunately, Jonathan's not here right now to pull it up for us, but that big publicity picture that they pull out of all the stars of their upcoming Dark Universe films. And they had Tom Cruise, who had The Mummy coming out. And it had Russell Crowe, who I did believe appear in that one, but he was going to be in other ones too.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, I think he was.
Johnny Depp, Javier Bardem, and I think there was one other person. So they put that big cast picture together with all of them sitting together. It's like, we've got this Dark Universe movie coming out, and cinematic universe coming.
Before their first movie.
The first movie came out, and it. By the way, I did not hate that Mummy movie.
I still want to watch it.
You still haven't seen it?
Yeah, it's just, you guys, I felt like everyone was trashing it so bad, I almost kept me from watching it, and I keep forgetting to go back to it.
Right. Well, Sophia Boutella, who is just in those horrible bags of shit movies, the Rebel Moon movies, she was the Mummy. And you know what? Was the Tom Cruise Mummy movie great? No, it was not. But I didn't think it was all that bad, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was terrible.
But if you put it in like perspective of like what they were trying to do, that Mummy movie should have at least equaled Iron Man.
Well,
a little bit.
At least Iron Man is like, wait.
When you look at it, Iron Man is a great film, but it has to get people excited.
To see
the next film.
It has to at least not turn people off.
Right.
And that's what it did. It turned like you said, you avoided seeing because you heard so many people trashing
it felt like there was a solid 2 weeks. We're still doing the AMC movie talk. It felt like not even on camera, even like John Schnapp and just like it was just getting trashed. So I kind of shied away from it.
Yeah, and a lot of people did. A lot of people trashed it. Well, look, it sounds like. By the way, I don't even know the studio behind this. Is it Universal?
Well, this Wolfman is Blumhouse. Yeah. Blumhouse Universal.
And working with Universal, right? So it is Universal thing. So I don't know. Listen, all I know is this, that some of the films they've done, I like that a number of these critics have harkened back to the 2020's Invisible Man. That movie, I think the budget on that movie was $8 million.
Right. It was really
$8 million. And that movie was really good. I mean, I enjoyed that movie so much. And if this one can go, and I don't know, like, do they take a swing at trying to create a dark universe again? Like a shared cinematic universe? I don't know if they do that.
I just found it also funny that after The Mummy, they scrapped it already. They didn't even try to go with it with one more movie after that, right? It was like Mummy.
Oh no,
came out,
they scrapped it. They
said, "Oh no."
Yep, said no. Just like that frickin' what was it? Power Rangers movie that came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Remember before that movie came out, everybody like the studio came out and says, "This is our first of 9. We're gonna do." I think it was 8 or 9 or something. We're gonna do 9-part Power Rangers series before the first movie ever came out, and then the first one came out and it kind of fell on its face.
Not 1, not 2,
not 3, not 4. 9. 9 we're going to do. Anyway, that kind of fell apart. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The first reactions for Wolfman sound really good, kind of living up to the promise of those early previews we got last year. Are you planning on seeing it? Is this movie even been on your radar? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Other than an Oscar, the highest award that are given out for actors every year are the ones given out by the actors. The Screen Actors Guild, the SAG Awards. Again, the highest honor an actor can get other than an Oscar. It happens every year that they do. I remember Chris Carr, our own Chris Carr, used to be a member of the nominating committee for SAG. Well, the nominations for this year's SAG Awards have just been announced for the Best in Acting in Movies and Television. And There's some pretty good lists here. Anyway, let's go over and take a look at this. This list comes to us from Deadline. So, your nominees for the SAG Awards for Best Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Lead Role. Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig for Queer, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Ralph Fiennes for Conclave. I think this list is great. I still think Ralph Fiennes should win this year.
And you've seen Complete Unknown now, right?
That's still the one I haven't seen.
So okay.
But it doesn't sound like Timothée Chalamet is a major contender to win anyway. It sounds like it's probably going to come down to Adrian Brody and Ralph Fiennes. And Adrian Brody I've always liked Adrian Brody. He's already got an Oscar. He's wonderful in The Brutalist. I still think it should be Ralph Fiennes, but it looks like the momentum is going to Adrian Brody, so it'll be interesting. We'll keep our eyes on that.
I ask this question every year, John. How much money would you put on the winners that come out of this award ceremony to take the Oscar? I mean, what do you feel good about?
I put none money.
Oh, they historically they haven't been.
No, it's hit and miss. I mean, historically they can, but they also may not. But I put it this way. The winner of the SAG, like just last year, I think it was, or 1 year or 2 years ago, when I'm forgetting the name of the actress.
I think
from what was the name of the Martin Scorsese film?
I know which one. Killers of Flower Moon.
So like
Lily Gladstone.
Thank you. Lily Gladstone won the SAG award, and then Emma Stone won the Oscar, right? So it can go. I think you definitely have to say that the winner of the SAG is a serious contender, maybe even favorite. But anyway, let's keep going through the list here. Okay. Next up, we got Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Leading Role. Pamela Anderson, a good Canadian girl, by the way, for The Last Showgirl.
Good for her.
Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Mickey Madison for Honora, and Demi Moore for The Substance. I've got to go Mickey Madison for Honora. Her performance, she's always been good, but her performance in Honora is just absolutely insane. So I honestly think Cynthia Erivo might win. I think it's either Cynthia Erivo, Mickey Madison, your top two front runners, and then Demi Moore is your outside. I don't think Carla or Pamela Anderson are going to win. But so I think that your number one and number two most likely to win here are Cynthia Erivo and Mickey Madison for Honora. And then Demi Moore could be the outside dark horse on that. So, all right. Next up, Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Supporting Role. Jonathan Bailey for Wicked. Yura Borisov for Honora. He's great in this. Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. And Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. I have no idea. I really don't. It looks right now like Kieran Culkin has the momentum.
Yeah.
And I thought that before the Golden Globes. And of course, he won the Golden Globe. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. All right. Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Supporting Role. Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. Jamie Lee Curtis for The Last Showgirl. Daniel Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson. Ariana Grande for Wicked. And Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. I'm going to guess Ariana Grande wins. I'm going to go with that. Even though there's been nothing to indicate that that's the way it's going to go, I think Ariana Grande is going to take this. Zoe Saldana just won the Golden Globe,
right?
So I think she's got a shot. But if I had to put $2 down on it, I'd say Ariana Grande.
I really like her presence in Wicked.
She's so good in it.
Just the way she plays that character, it's like I always following what she's saying, and like it's almost whatever voice, if that's her real voice that she speaks in, it's just her presence on screen was really it got my attention. The whole movie.
I'll tell you what, when they first announced Ariana Grande, I went, I'm not an Ariana Grande hater, but I'm not an Ariana Grande fan. And when they put her in that, I'm like, and then I thought about it, I'm like, well, it is a lot of singing. And even though I'm not a fan of her stuff in general, she is a wildly fantastic singer. And then I saw the movie, and I'm like, she's amazing.
She plays this character so well.
She's amazing in this movie. Anyway, so I'm going to go with that.
But, you know, I'm already sensing 2 snubs already.
Like,
two
what do you think?
snubs.
What's that?
Jonathan and Chris Carr for their roles in Invisible Man and Invisible Woman.
Yep. Because you didn't see them at all.
Because they're not here.
They're not here.
Me and you are here.
All right. Let's keep going here.
Go
now,
well.
this brings us to SAG. Even though it's an acting thing, they have kind of their version of Best Picture, which is Outstanding Performance by a Cast. So it's kind of like their version of Best Picture.
Okay.
And their nominees are the cast for A Complete Unknown, the cast for Nora, the cast for Conclave, the cast for Emilia Perez, and the cast of Wicked. I think this is going to go to Conclave. I get the cast in Wicked is great. The cast in, and well, I mean, everything is great, but I think this one might go to Conclave because, like, top to bottom, all the performances in that movie are so ridiculous. Led by Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, Jonathan Lithgow. I mean, it's just, it's a tremendous cast performance. It's one of these movies where it's a limited number of characters in a limited space, so it's all carried by the performances. So I'm gonna guess Conclave.
And have you seen any of the character posters for Conclave?
No.
Every single one looks like they're the lead actor in the film. That's how much like the presence of who they are.
And they all shine. They all shine. All right. Last film award of the night is Outstanding Action Performance by a Stunt Ensemble in a Motion Picture. And the nominees are the stunt team of Deadpool and Wolverine, the stunt team of Dune Part 2, the stunt team for The Fall Guy, the stunt team for Gladiator 2, and the stunt team for Wicked. I don't know how anybody could sleep at night if they didn't vote for The Fall Guy.
Yeah.
The whole movie is all stunts. The whole movie is a love letter to the stunt community. And the whole movie is nothing but stunts. It's gotta go to Fall Guy.
Is this the first year that this award is actually putting in front, like on?
I think last year was. I could be mistaken about that, but I think last year was, but I don't think this is the first year for it.
It sounds like they're going to have a presentation on stage for it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the SAGs. This isn't the Oscars.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think they had it last year. Like, I thought it was one of the ones that they just announced at the side.
I don't think they do that at the SAGs.
Oh, they don't do that. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
because they only have, because remember, it's only acting awards. They only have so many awards.
Yeah, it's got to be Fall Guy. Come on.
All right. Let's touch on quickly here the nominations of the SAGs for television, which is pretty interesting. All right. Outstanding performance by a male actor in a TV movie or limited series. Javier Bardem for Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Mendez story. Colin Farrell as Oz Cobb in The Penguin. Richard Gadd in Baby Reindeer. Kevin Kline, I love Kevin Kline, in Disclaimer. And Andrew Scott in Ripley. I think this is between Richard Gadd for Baby Reindeer and Colin Farrell for The Penguin. I give it to Colin Farrell in The Penguin. Too. So that's how I go. Outstanding performance by female actor in a television movie or limited series. Kathy Bates for The Great Lillian Hall. Kate Blanchett for Disclaimer. Jodie Foster for True Detective Night Country. Lily Gladstone for Under the Bridge. Jessica Gunning for Baby Reindeer. And Kristen Milioti, C. Millie, as Ray has dubbed her, for The Penguin. Listen, this very well could go to Kristen Milioti, and I will have no complaints. I think it should go to Jodie Foster. I'm still on that. Like, again, I know not everybody watched True Detective Night Country, and I think Penguin was the better show. But yeah, man, Jodie Foster in her legendary Hall of Fame career, I legit think that might have been her best performance of her entire iconic career.
Wow.
Kristen Milioti is fab. Like, if you watch my show at all while The Penguin was on, you know how much I love Kristen Milioti in that. But Jodie Foster was just a little bit better.
And it may also come down to screen time. Even though C. Millie did her thing, what she was the focus. Did she get a bunch of parts in the beginning of the series? We only met her like maybe like a little bit into the series, right? Was Jodie Foster?
She was in episode 1.
Was Jodie Foster a more prominent figure in that show than see Millie? Did she get to show more? Have enough time to show more?
I think yes. I think that because, yeah, I think Jodie Foster's character was more prominent in her show than, I mean, there was even some debate that Kristen Milioti might have even been categorized as supporting actress. I think she is properly categorized as lead actress. And again, she's great in it. And I think The Penguin was the better show. But as far as just pure performance,
yeah,
I'm sorry. If you watch True Detective Night Country, you at least have to struggle with it because Jodie Foster is so good in that role in that series. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, let's keep going here. Next up, we got Best Performance by Male Actor in a Drama Series. They don't even need to do this. It's a foregone conclusion. Tenobu Asano for Shogun, Jeff Bridges for The Old Man, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Eddie Redmayne for Dave the Jackal. By the way, Eddie Redmayne in Dale the Jackal, so good. And he should win a SAG if it wasn't for the fact that he happens to have been in this in the same year as Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun. That's a foregone conclusion. He's won every award this thing. He's going to win for playing Lord Toranaga. He's going to win for Shogun this year. That's a foregone conclusion. Done deal. All right. Next up, Outstanding Performance by Female Actress in a Drama Series. Kathy Bates for Matlock. I love that she got nominated.
She's great.
Nicola Coughlan for Bridgerton. Allison Janney for The Diplomat. She was only in a couple of episodes. Anyway, Kerry Russell for The Diplomat. And Anna Sawai for Shogun. Again, foregone conclusion.
Oh, okay.
It's Anna Sawai. She's won every other award. She deserves it. She's gonna get it. So that's a done deal.
Did you see her speech on
I did.
It was so short and just so wholesome and sweet.
She's wonderful.
You could tell she was really happy that she won.
Oh yeah, I love her. Anyway, next up, Outstanding Performance by Male Actor in a Comedy Series. Adam Brody in Nobody Wants This. By the way, surprisingly good in that show. I didn't give that show a lot of credit till I watched it, and I was like, okay, this is damn good. Anyway, Ted Danson for A Man on the Inside, Harrison Ford for Shrinking, Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building, and Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. Look, Jeremy Allen White has been winning everything. He'll win this. It should be Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford should win this for Shrinking. It's the best performance he's done in over a decade. He should win, but it'll be Jeremy Allen White. And I have Jeremy Allen White is amazing in The Bear. No complaints from me. I'm just saying, I really do think it should go to Harrison Ford. Anyway, Outstanding Performance by Female Actor in a Comedy Series. Kristen Bell from Nobody Wants This. Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary. Liza Colon Zayas for The Bear. Ayo Edebiri for The Bear. And Jean Smart for Hacks. It really does look like everything is Jean Smart for Hacks this year, so I'm going to guess that she gets it. However, everybody loves The Bear and everybody loves Abbott Elementary, so Quinta and Ayo are both names you're going to have to watch for that. All right. Then we got their version of Best Series, which is the Ensemble Cast. Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series. Bridgerton. Really? Really? Anyway, well, whatever. That's just me. So look at the list of that. Day of the Jackal. That would get serious consideration for me. The performances in Day of the Diplomat, also incredible. Shogun, that'll win. So it'll be Shogun. Slow Horses, and so those are your nominees. I think Shogun's going to win. I think they should win. I think they will. Then the Outstanding Ensemble in a Comedy Series, Abbott Elementary, powerful ensemble. The Bear, powerful ensemble. Hacks, great ensemble. Only Murders in the Building, powerful ensemble. Shrinking, powerful ensemble.
And this is comedy?
This is Best Comedy Series.
Oh, then you should have to add the New York Jets in there then.
Best Comedy Series, the 2024 NFL season of the New York Jets.
That was for you, John. I saved that one for you. That was for you.
I like that. I think it should be Shrinking. It's probably going to be The Bear. I mean, The Bear literally has 3 different people from their cast win Emmys for this show. So, I mean, it's going to be difficult not to, first of all, I don't think The Bear is a comedy. The Bear is not a comedy. Anyway,
Right.
but it's probably going to win.
One of these situations where you just love like a series so much or a show, a movie, that you just want it to get some recognition somehow. And so if this is the award that you could see it actually getting, you really want it to win that award.
I don't know what you're
like
about.
okay, -1. I loved -1.
Right.
Whatever it was nominated for at the Oscars, I wanted it to win just because I wanted people to know how much this movie was cool to me.
Right.
So when and I looked, it was only nominated for one thing, right? In the Oscars, maybe two things.
Yeah, what did it win for? Visual effects?
Yeah, visual effects.
Right.
So when it won that, it was just like, even though the creator was in my head probably.
The creator probably should have won that award,
but my heart said
no
like
complaints.
-1. Is this one of those situations, or you actually think Shrinking is the best comedy show out of the all those ones?
I legitimately think it's the best comedy show.
Okay, so it was not.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to win, because I legitimately think it's the best one.
Okay.
Actually, I think the best comedy series in not 20 years, but in a few years. I think it's remarkable, and every single character in it is so perfectly portrayed and so perfectly acted and is so delightful. So I think it should win, but it's going to be The Bear. And again, no complaints from me. The Bear's cast and ensemble is spectacular, but that's the one I would go with. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about the nominees list for SAG this year? The Screen Actors Guild, the second most prestigious and best award that an actor could get is from SAG. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? There is a report going around that Marvel Studios is, in my best rock voice, finally looking at recasting the role of T'Challa in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's go through the story here first. This comes from the folks over at CBR, who write the following. When Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman tragically passed away in 2020, still, I can't believe that was getting close to 5 years ago. Marvel Studios said it would not recast the character. But just over 4 years later, executives have seemingly had a change of heart. According to Hollywood Scooper, and every once in a while, a guest here on the John Campea Show, Jeff Snyder. Marvel Studios is currently searching for a new actor to play T'Challa in future projects. He said this: with Marvel reshuffling the deck in advance of Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and Robert Downey Jr. coming back, not as Iron Man, but as Dr. Doom, I am told that the door is firmly open for T'Challa to be recast via the magic of multiverse, he said via the Direct. I heard that an actor was actually offered the role this past fall, a couple of months after Downey's big reveal at Comic-Con, but they turned it down, not wanting to jeopardize their career momentum by stepping into Boseman's gigantic shoes, which may be too big to fill, even for Hollywood's most talented black actors, he continued. Although it remains unclear if the character will appear in the upcoming Avengers movies, Snyder believes that the newly cast T'Challa will lead Black Panther 3. All right. So first thing we should say is that while Jeff is a friend of our show, and I think you're actually going to see him back on the show in the next week or two. I think we're going to have Jeff on again. It needs to be said objectively that while Jeff has broken some of the biggest movie news stories of the past year or so, there have also been a couple that he was incorrect on, or he got wrong information on. So I'm just saying that to be fair and not to come across as biased, because it's Jeff. He's broken some of the biggest stories that turned out to be absolutely correct, had a couple that didn't. So I just want to throw that out there to keep that in mind. So let's discuss this for the sake of discussion, that this report and the information that Jeff has been given here is actually true. It would absolutely 100% be the right move. I have firmly said for almost going on 5 years now that when our King T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, tragically passed away, that the best way to honor his legacy is not to take out the scrubbing brush and soap and wipe his character away. To me, that is not the way to honor the man. The way you honor the man is by picking up the baton for him and carrying on the race. That's how you honor him. Not by throwing out the work he did, but by elevating the work he did, lifting it up since he's not here himself to lift it up himself. And the thing is, to me, T'Challa became not just an important character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. T'Challa became an important character culturally. And what Chadwick Boseman did to make that character come to life needed to be carried on. It needed to be carried on. I was never angry, and you guys have heard me say this. I was never angry at Marvel for deciding to recast because I understood their heart was wanting to do right by the legacy of Chadwick Boseman, right? So I can never be mad at somebody when their heart is in the right place. And their heart was in the right place. I still think it was the wrong decision. I think if they had just taken more time, because they announced very quickly after his passing that he wasn't going to be recast. I think if they had taken more time, let the grief settle with them a bit, and considered it longer, I think they would have come to the same conclusion that the majority of Marvel Cinematic Universe fans came to, which was everybody wants to honor Chadwick. Marvel did, the filmmakers did, the cast did, the fans did. Everybody wanted to honor Chadwick. And I just feel that if Marvel executives, including Kevin Feige, had taken more time before making a pronouncement that they weren't going to recast him, I think they would have come to the same conclusion. And I'm just speculating, but I think they would have come to the same conclusion that a lot of us did, which was the best way to honor him is to carry the character on, because the character's so important. Listen, I'll say this. The character of T'Challa is more important to the MCU and more important culturally than the character of General Thunderbolt Ross is. What happened when Thunderbolt Ross's actor died? No problem. They went out and recast him because the character is important to the story. He's not even as important to the story as T'Challa is. So William Hurt dies, and it's like, that's horrible, and what a loss that was for those of us who are movie fans. But the character endures. So they went out and they carried on his character by bringing in Harrison Ford. And I think that's great. And it's what they should have done with T'Challa in the first place. Now, that being said, one of the interesting things pointed out in the article that Jeff mentioned was that who do you get to come in and fill in those shoes? Because I think if I am a prominent actor, I don't know if I want to do it. Because, like Jeff said, it's gigantic shoes. This is not just any average role. This is a role made legendary by Chadwick Boseman.
And there's a sense of commitment too. Commitment to having it might maybe be this movie. It might be appearing in future movies or even making cameos and stuff like that. But
that's true of any MCU role, right? Like with any MCU role, you got to sign on to commit to multiple projects.
Right. So that's something the future actor.
But like, let's say it's John David Washington.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. I think a lot of people think John David Washington would be a great new T'Challa, and maybe even more so that his dad is going to be in the movie.
Right. That's what
Denzel Washington let slip. But if you're John David Washington, like, you might be thinking, I don't want to be compared to Chadwick Boseman. Maybe a lesser known, like not complete unknown, maybe a lesser known actor who's like really good and something like that to come in. And listen, while I hate multiverse, while I hate multiverse, the fact of the matter is MCU is currently doing multiverse. They're currently doing multiverse. That's what they're doing. And so if you're going to do multiverse, take advantage of it. They have brought back so many characters. I mean, all the time, to say that, like, they're about to bring in Fantastic Four from another universe.
Are you going somewhere where I think you're going?
Just a T'Challa from another universe.
Oh, no, I thought you were going to say Michael B. Jordan.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because you're bringing up multiverse.
No.
Multiverse, so I thought.
No.
Okay.
No.
Don't blame me for thinking, because
I've seen a lot of other people saying they should bring in Michael B. Jordan. Killmonger. No.
Okay.
No,
good.
I love Michael B. Jordan. He's awesome.
Okay, good.
But no, Killmonger cannot be the new
I don't. My heart is set on John David Washington. Let everyone know that. That's it. But if you go ahead, John.
I mean, listen, I think he'd be great. I think there's a number of actors who'd be wonderful as it. But if you're since you're doing this big multiversal saga and it's culminating up into Secret Wars, you have a big wide open door to bring in a new T'Challa. It's an easy, big, wide. Or listen, we literally just had Ghost Agatha. Just straight up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And by the way, I also don't like that they keep fake deathing everybody. But since you do it, it isn't the hardest thing in the world in Marvel to bring back a character from the dead. They've done it before. They'll do it again. And they could do it for Black Panther. Look, it's the right move. Black Panther Wakanda Forever proved they needed to recast T'Challa.
Yeah, that's what I think happened.
Yeah, I think they understood that and they realized it. And I think just T'Challa, again, is just too important of a character to throw away. I think what Chadwick Boseman created and manifested with his performance was too important of a work to just throw away. And if Jeff is right, and if Jeff is being given the correct information here, it would absolutely be the right thing for them to do. That's a good one. Cosmic Truth in the live chat is saying Aldous Hodge as Black Panther. Woo! Sign me. I mean, also John David Washington, Aldous Hodge. He's in what's the show he's in right now? The Along Came a Spider character.
Yeah. The guy, he's a detective.
Yeah, he's a detective. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the show, but he's Alex Cross, right? He's doing that right now. He was an awesome Hawkman.
Yeah.
I would be down for that. I mean, I think there's a lot of good names you could bring up.
And remember, John David Washington was in The Creator. I think that was under
he was in The Creator.
Disney umbrella. Wasn't that like the Fox side of it?
Was it? That would make sense, yeah.
So like they already have made communications open with him. So I don't know. I just thought of him, but don't nobody say it. Please, nobody say Mahershala Ali.
Oh, I've already seen it. I've already seen people in the live chat say Mahershala Ali.
I thought of that too, because I was like, he's not busy doing something else. I mean, he's free right now.
But I mean, if
no, let's not.
I know it's not seriously, but let's go down this rabbit trail just for a second. Let's just explore this for a second. Like, if Kevin Feige, like, if they're on the verge of losing Mahershala Ali, right? Yeah. Because it's been 5 years since they announced it, right? And they're not. And Kevin Feige doesn't feel like they're really close to locking in Blade. Maybe he goes to Mahershala Ali and say, look, he's a two-time Academy Award winner, Mahershala
What
Ali.
A great role for him.
Say, listen, Blade may still be a ways off, but you know what? One of our world's great actors right now, we've got another role that we're experimenting with, that we're thinking about doing. How would you feel about being T'Challa? I don't know. Maybe you could do it.
And you know what? Why this, I was saying no, and now I'm like, let's do it, is because whoever in the chat brought up Aldous Hodge.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he make a great Blade? If they gave Mahershala Ali T'Challa's role, which he would do it proud, like the authoritative voice, the stature.
Oh,
and he took on that role.
Mahershala Ali as a king?
And he took that role. And then I was like, well, who's going to play Blade? And just look at his profile pic in this Cross movie. Oh, I mean, this series.
Yeah.
That is a good Blade.
Hodge in Blade.
And he's
I still take Mahershala Ali as Blade.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But if you're like, again, we're just spitballing.
But this is
this is going to happen.
This is an exciting.
None of this is going to happen. But
what an exciting fantasy!
If they were like, listen, we're still not close to getting Blade done, Mahershala. You've been waiting around for 5 years. What would you think about this? And then going to Aldous Hodge and saying, listen, we're not ready to go right now, but we're thinking about 2 years we're going to be ready to shoot Blade. How would you feel about being Blade? I'd be so down for that.
Well, Aldous Hodge would look.
You know who else wouldn't be a bad Blade? You can't do it, though. You can't do it. Nope, can't do it. I was going to say Jonathan Majors.
Ooh,
Jonathan Majors would be a pretty badass Blade, but he's already been in the MCU. His fate, that's too problematic. You can't do that.
Yeah, you don't want him anywhere near any weapons right now.
So maybe not anyway. But I listen, I hope this story ends up being true. Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars are absolutely the easiest inroads to bring in a new Blade. You're about to bring in Fantastic Four characters from another universe into this one. You're about to bring in a Doctor Doom from another universe into this one. If you're going to do it, now's the time to do it. And I think they should absolutely bring back T'Challa. It's time to, and I'm not talking about an aged up T'Challa's kid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about T'Challa. Bring him back. I think it's the time to do it. The time to do it was when they did Black Panther 2, but you didn't do it then. Here's your last chance. This is your last chance to bring back T'Challa. I think they should do it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you believe the report, number one, that Marvel is so serious about bringing back T'Challa, they've even already offered the role to somebody, and then put aside whether or not you believe the report or not. In theory, do you think they should recast T'Challa? I understand if you feel no. I truly feel that the answer is yes. Whatever you guys think, though, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to go on to the questions of you guys and topics that you've sent in for us. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Hungryroot. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hungryroot. You know, grocery shopping used to be one of the biggest struggles. Between your busy schedule and wanting to eat healthier, it just feels impossible to stay on top of everything. But all that changes when you discover Hungryroot, the easiest way to eat healthy without the hassles. Hungryroot is like having your own personal grocery shopper. They take care of the weekly shopping for you, recommending healthy, high-quality groceries tailored to your tastes, nutritional preferences, and even health goals. They've got it all: smoothies, snacks for the kids, ready-to-eat meals, and even supplements. For me, Hungryroot is absolutely a game changer, guys. My health goals have become so much easier to stick to. I love how they personalize my cart every week and even get smart about my preferences as I go. It's honestly stress-free and so simple. You're gonna love Hungryroot as much as I do. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Campea and use the code Campea. That's hungryroot.com/Campea, using the code Campea to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Campea, code Campea. And thank you to our friends at Hungryroot for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to your topics and questions, shall we? We're going to get started off with this. Amin writes in, one of two. The Oscars are as much about being the best as it is about campaigning yourself for the win. Not really. Anyway, as irrelevant as the Globes are, winning there gives an actor/filmmaker an opportunity to stand out and convince voters, especially in a tight race. The Oscar voting now open starting today. People like Demi Moore, Adrian Brody, and films like The Brutalist are slightly ahead now in the race compared to Mickey Madsen, Honora, and even Wicked. Will be interesting to see how this awards season unfolds. No, I don't agree with you on that. And the reason I don't agree, Amin, is because would you, let's just take yourself as an individual. By now, if you were an Oscar voter, by now you already know who you're voting for. Are you going to change your mind about who to vote for because of how the Golden Globes go? No. You're an individual. You've probably at this point already made up your mind. And by the way, when the people like to credit people like Colin Farrell or Demi Moore, when they get up there, they're just thanking people. They're not making a case trying to convince voters of other awards bodies to vote for them. Again, I just put it to you. If you were a voter, you wouldn't change your mind because of who somebody else voted for. You've already decided who you're going to vote for. So no, I personally don't believe the Golden Globes have any bearing whatsoever on how the voting members of the Academy are going to vote. They're going to vote for who they want to vote for. So yeah, I disagree. Respectfully, I disagree. Now, I don't disagree that even before the Golden Globes, you could feel momentum building for certain movies and stuff like that. That absolutely. But again, I don't think, and again, I might be right, I might be wrong, but I don't think the results of the Golden Globes really have any impact on that. All right. Next up, the War Chief writes, do you think that the fact that the DCEU was a total disaster could actually be good for the new DCU? Everyone loves underdogs and a good comeback story. Detroit Lions, RDJ, Kim Kardashian. I know, it's one of the greatest. I knew that was coming. You know what? Here's the thing.
Well, did she? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think War Chief has a point. Now, look, the total disaster that did end up being the DCEU is definitely a hindrance and a hurdle to the new DCU. But where it could work in their favor is if Superman is great. And I know that's a big if, but if Superman is great, it will help in winning people over. Because you're being, like, if you put out Superman, you need to win the audience of people over. If people watch Superman and go, this is way better than what the DCEU was, a total disaster, even though I liked almost every single one of the movies they did. But like, it could help in that way. Because remember, the number one job of Superman is not to make a bunch of money. The number one job of Superman is to win the audience back over so future movies can make a ton of money. And maybe the disaster that did end up being the DCEU, by comparison's sake, may help win people over. So I don't know. You might be onto something there, War Chief. You might be onto something. All right. Next up, Anonymous just tipped in $5 to be supportive. Thank you, Anonymous. Quirky J writes, my top 5 movies for 2024. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It didn't make my list, but I really like that movie. Number 4, Superman, the documentary. Number 3, Fly Me to the Moon. I enjoyed that. Again, nowhere near my list, but I enjoyed that film. Number 2, Inside Out 2. And number 1, My Old Ass. And the John Campea Show is my number 1 podcast, Bring on the Filthy. Thank you so much for that. I only found out yesterday, speaking of this list, Aubrey Plaza, her husband died just a few days ago. Apparently he died on January 3rd, and I just saw the news yesterday. And I've been watching Aubrey Plaza, obviously, ever since the early days of Parks and Rec, and obviously just recently watched her in Agatha All Along, and yeah, my heart broke when I found out that my heart totally broke.
Incredibly tough, bro.
All right, next up, Mad Dolphin fan writes, my biggest takeaway from that Matt Reeves interview is the fact that he's no longer completely opposed to the idea. You're talking about of Robert Pattinson's Batman coming into the DCU. Maybe he watched Superman and is reconsidering. I don't think so at all. And it's also important to keep in mind that it's not even remotely Matt Reeves' decision as to whether or not Robert Pattinson's Batman joins the DCU. That is 100% James Gunn's decision. He's the boss. And James Gunn has already made it pretty clear that, oh yeah, absolutely, I considered it, because you have to consider these things, but, you know, that's not what they're doing. So in a recent interview, Matt Reeves, for those of you who don't know what Mad Dolphin fan is referring to, like, it looked like there might be a little crack in the Matt Reeves armor about, nope, Robert Pattinson thinks is his own thing. I think he's just saying things to be nice to certain parts of the fan base, but I never thought that would be a good idea. And James Gunn has already made it pretty clear they're not. And now listen, it doesn't mean even James Gunn is human, can change his mind, but it sounds like it's pretty definitive. And I'm glad it's pretty definitive because Robert Pattinson's Batman would not fit. Even just watching the Superman trailer, Ray.
Right.
Can you see Robert Pattinson's Batman in that world that we saw in the Superman trailer? It just feels way too different. Way too. I just don't think that's a real thing that they can do. But that's just me. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Yeah. After we see the movie, maybe we see that it can fit.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? The trailer's just a trailer. All right. Next up, we've got Victor, who writes, one of two. Did you see the recent news about Jake Lloyd? Jake Lloyd is the guy who played young little Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequels. Did you see the recent news about Jake Lloyd? He was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2008 and recently finished an 18-month stint in mental health facility and says he's feeling, quote unquote, pretty good today. He also says he's still a fan of Star Wars and a therapeutic experience with the fan base. I wish nothing but the best for him, and I hope that somewhere down the line, he'll have the courage to be at Celebration and receive as much love as Hayden and Ahmed did. Do you think it could happen? I absolutely think it could happen. Now, listen, I'm one of those people who believes the Star Wars prequels was one of the biggest abominations ever to happen in the world of film. The Star Wars prequels are utter garbage. But I will never understand the vitriol at the time when those movies were out that people aimed at a kid. It's like, I'm sorry, are you under the impression that this child wrote the lines he said? I'll try spinning. That's a good move. Okay, dumb line. Yes. Do you think the kid wrote that line? Do you think the kid made the decisions? Same thing with like Ahmed Best. Jar Jar Binks is one of the biggest abortion of an ideas that ever happened in cinema. Ahmed Best had nothing to do with that. Ahmed Best was an actor who got the opportunity of a lifetime to be in a Star Wars movie and got told by the director what he wanted him to do, what his lines were going to be, and how he wanted him to move and act. That wasn't Ahmed Best's fault. I've never understood the hatred that got targeted at those, in the case of Jake Lloyd, a child. I've never understood that. Like, I brutally hate Kraven the Hunter. I'm not blaming any of the actors for it. They didn't write it. They just went in there and gave the best performance they could. But, I mean, if it's a piece of shit movie, you can give us the best performance you want. It's not going to change it from being a shit movie.
Yeah, we're not going lion hunting this weekend.
Yeah, we're not. That's right. So, yeah, man, and you know what? I was there at Star Wars Celebration when Hayden Christensen was there and got that love. And it was one of the best moments as a fan to see. I really would love for Jake Lloyd to have that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would, and I say this as somebody who hates those movies. I think he totally deserves it for all the shit he has undeservedly taken over the years. 100%. I hope he gets that. I really do. I think that would be great. Anyway. All right. Next up. Truth Vader writes, regarding Fandango stating that Superman is the most anticipated movie of 2025, it should be, oh no, not one of these. It should be noted that Fandango is owned by Warner Brothers and NBC Universal, so grain of salt. Oh my fucking God. I feel dumber just from reading that statement. Listen. First of all, NBC Universal Studios owns 75% of Fandango. Warner Brothers has an ownership interest, but they are not management of any sense of the way. They own a 25% stake. That's it. Universal Studios is truly the main owner of Fandango. I hate these fucking conspiracy theorists who, when something comes up that doesn't fit what they want it to be, they dig around, put on their tinfoil hats, and try to find something. Oh my fucking God, this is one of the stupidest things I've read all day. Why would Universal Studios, who is 75% owner of Fandango, what's coming out from Universal? How to Train Your Dragon.
Right.
Why wouldn't Universal make How to Train Your Dragon the #1 most anticipated? Because it's not them. They took a poll of their viewers. Why would Universal allow Warner Brothers? And why wouldn't a Warner Brothers movie be the #1 most anticipated movie every year? Oh, and by the way, IMDB also listed Superman as the #1 most anticipated movie of the year. You know who owns IMDB? Amazon. Why the fuck would Amazon purposefully make Superman the #1 thing? And if you acknowledge that they didn't, because there's no reason Amazon should purposely make Superman the #1 most anticipated thing, and you note that just the fans made it that way, then why wasn't it the same for Fandango? It's fucking idiotic. It is fucking idiotic. Warner Brothers doesn't even own the majority of Fandango. Universal does. And since Universal owns it, if you think it's all corrupted, why didn't Universal make a Universal film? And if IMDb was strictly fan-driven by fan data, because Amazon doesn't want to make a Warner Brothers film, but no, it's just fan-driven, fan data. If IMDb did that and it came out that Superman was the #1 most anticipated film, why can't it be that way also for Fandango's viewership? It's just the stupidest thing. Now, if Warner Brothers owned 100% of Fandango, even the majority owner of Fandango, which they are not, and then we pulled out the data that for each of the last 15 years, Warner Brothers films ended up being the #1 most anticipated film. Okay, maybe then you might be able to make a case. Maybe you might be able to make a case. But no, there is no grain of salt needed here.
It all reminds me of, like, okay, it's just one site that said that was the most anticipated. Who's to say that you really need to care about what they say or what they like, okay, when I go looking for a laptop a long time ago, I used to go to laptop.com, laptopmag.com, whatever. And then there was like PC World. Remember that? And they would list all their #1 or #2 laptops, this and that. And they would always be different. I just went to the source that I felt comfortable with. So it feels like there may be some beef with Fandango, or there's some disbelief with this person.
No. What it is it's somebody who doesn't want Superman to be good. So they're saying, oh, that they said it's the most anticipated? Well, take it with a grain of salt because it's clearly not on the up and up. Based on what? Based on what? They're not. Universal Studios owns Fandango.
Hold on. Before we go, can you make sure the next question is not from him that says just kidding?
He said, yeah, it's not. It's not. Again, guys, think about things, okay? Universal Studios is the primary owner of Fandango. IMDb is owned by Amazon, and their fan base came up with the same results. So no, there is no grain of salt.
And then the bigger thing, shouldn't we only care about what we're most anticipating? Who cares what let's say?
No, look,
you know what I mean?
The problem is when you start hunting around, and I hate this about movie fandom, when you start hunting around for ways to discredit something that doesn't line up with what you want to have happen, that's just pathetic. And it's a part of movie fandom, and it's an irritating part of it. Again, listen, and I'm not sitting here telling you Superman's going to be the best movie of the year. It might suck. It absolutely might suck. I've got a lot of trust in it because it's James Gunn and everything, but everybody's got a bad day at the office. But this whole thing of trying to discredit any facts that come along just because it doesn't line up with what you want, no, I'm sorry, you're the one that needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Anyway, it's just stupid. Let's move on. I feel like I'm getting dumber just even having to look at this more. Next up, we've got Tiberius, who writes, John and gang, for fun, what is a movie, TV show, and musician, for the most part, universally loved, but which you don't? Not that you hate them, just don't love them as much as others. For me, it's Godfather, Friends, and the Rolling Stones. Yeah, I mean, I like that question because, like, all of us, every year, right. I say this, there are going to be movies that everybody else loves that you don't. That will happen every year. It's a part of fandom that there's something everybody loves that just for us doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And there are movies that you love that for somebody else might not work. I'm not quite sure what the TV show would be. For me, the movie is Blade Runner.
And Terminal.
I think I'm safe from Terminal. I don't know that Terminal is a universally beloved movie.
Oh, it is. You just don't want to
I'm just the only one who doesn't see it. But yeah, I think for me, a movie that everybody universally loves, but it just didn't click with me, is the original Blade Runner. For musicians, and I know Scott Mance somewhere is going to scream when I say this, but the Beatles. Again, I don't dislike the Beatles. I just don't think the Beatles are all that great.
My TV show is easy.
Which one?
The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I'll be with you on that one. Yeah, that's one that was like the #1 TV show forever and ever and ever. And I'm like, this isn't that good of a show.
And this wasn't just me like browsing over and listening to a couple of jokes. I actually gave it from across the seasons. Whenever it was on TV, I would actually turn it and just give it the chance it needed. I would listen, whatever I was doing, I would just have something on, and that's usually how I find my shows. I left it on maybe 4 or 5 episodes long, and it just didn't work.
This is how I described it. The reason, and I tried 4 or 5, 6 episodes of it, and I said, how did I put this? I said, I think this is a show that's trying to be appealing to geek culture.
Right.
By people who clearly don't understand geek culture. That's every time I would try to watch that show. It's like this is a show trying to appeal to geek culture, but is clearly being made by people who don't understand geek culture. And again, I might be wrong about that. I could totally be wrong about that. I'm just saying that's how I felt every time I tried to watch that show. It's just, but again, I have so many friends, Ray, that love that show. That love that, and it was #1 in the ratings forever. And so, yeah, it's just, I'm just one of the guys it didn't really appeal to. And apparently you are too. All right. Next up, Garden Variety Vagabond writes, John, when we talk about money needed to recoup production costs, we never mention money made from advertising tie-ins because they're actually minimal. Heard that Captain America has extra ones to recoup additional reshoot costs. Are these ever calculated into the math? Well, when it comes to reshoots, yes. When reshoots are done, now in the case of Marvel and Kevin Feige, they've publicly said this before for years now, that when they start making a movie, they schedule reshoots even before they've started shooting the movie, and they budget for a certain amount of reshoots to be done. So in the case of Marvel, reshoots, even when they don't happen, reshoots are already scheduled in advance and budgeted for in advance. Now, in the case of something like Captain America 4, they had fairly extensive reshoots. Like, they didn't remake the whole movie or anything, but more than the normal round of reshoots that might be done. But still, that extra money will then get figured into the actual line of the budget. That will be then reflected in, like, maybe originally the shooting budget was this, but when it's all said and done, because again, Disney is a publicly traded company, these financials have to be made available, yada, yada, yada. That will be figured in to the expenses. When it's all said and done, the production costs will be elevated because, as a matter of fact, which Superman movie was it? Superman Returns. This is a good example. Brandon Routh's Superman Returns. If you look at the production budget of that movie, it looks ridiculously high. The reason it's listed as ridiculously high is because a certain amount of the money that got spent on developing Nicolas Cage and Tim Burton's Superman movie that John Schnepp did a documentary about, that got considered a part of the development of the movie that Superman Returns, and that all got wrapped into one. Do you got the number there?
$270 million.
Yeah, and if you watch Superman Returns, that's not a $270 million movie. It's because a lot of the development money from Superman, the Death of Superman,
right,
or Superman Lives, that's what it was going to be called. Superman Lives got kind of balled into that as well. So, yes, those will get. Now, as far as marketing tie-ins, for you and I, the money that gets generated from marketing tie-ins, is significant. To a movie's budget, it's fractional. So it doesn't really move the needle all that much. It's definitely more money for the studio, but it doesn't actually move the needle all that much. So that I don't think that actually gets counted into it, nor would it make that big of a difference. Excellent question, though, Garden Variety. I love the question. All right. Next up, we've got David, who writes, I was watching Nikki Glazer tell some jokes that she cut from her monologue on Howard Stern. Oh, I saw that come up on my YouTube feed, but I didn't watch it. I need to. My favorite was, welcome to the Golden Globes, Hollywood's 7th biggest night. They made her cut that? Those bastards. Those make fun of everybody else except us. Oh, I don't know. Maybe Nikki Glazer said she cut that herself. I would love it if she'd made that joke. Welcome to the Golden Globes, Hollywood's 7th biggest night. She's not wrong. She's totally wrong. Anyway, all right. Anorak, the all-knowing, writes, John, what an episode last night. Oh, we didn't talk about Skeleton Crew today. Okay. What an episode last night. Wow, I am kindly referring to Skeleton Crew and won't go into spoilers, but I was on the floor sobbing. What a WTF moment.
Oh, no.
Also, Happy New Year. And next week, the grand finale.
I haven't even watched it.
It's great.
I'll watch it after.
It's great. It's not the best episode of the year, but it's really good. And whoo, there's a moment when a certain character pulls out a certain thing that almost like somebody whipped out his dick.
That sounds not right.
That is not what happens in Skeleton Crew. But want to see my bone? No.
Oh, boy. Arr.
Arr.
Come on, man.
So, no, the show is great, man. I kept on waiting for, like, in episodes 3, 4, you know, that for the show to kind of fall off like a lot of Disney Plus shows do, and it just never did. It's just kept on humming, and I'm still dissatisfied with the length of the episodes. That being said, the show is great. I can't believe there's only one episode left. But yeah, man, it was great. I can't wait for you to watch it, Ray. I think you're going to really, really like it. It's so good. All right. Next up, we got Moana 2 and the Pink Panther writes. So James Gunn wants an older Batman. How about Scott Adkins? He's no Christian Bale acting-wise, but I could overlook that because of what he's capable of doing physically. Pow, biff, blam, sock, and he'd be the sexiest Bruce Wayne since Adam West. Well, you don't overlook acting ability for that. And by the way, I think Scott Adkins has turned himself into a really good actor. I like Scott Adkins. Actually, we had Scott on the show last year.
Right. He's in John Wick 4.
And he's great in John Wick 4. Talking about the Penguin. He kind of like Penguin-like body prosthetics and everything.
I want him to play that character more.
I like him. I like Scott very, very much. And I would totally be down if somebody announced that he was going to be Batman. I mean, I hadn't always felt that way, like 10 years ago, but he's just gotten better and better as an actor. Now, can you look up his age?
Yeah, Scott.
Because I think Scott might be in his 50s now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Adkins. Yep. What is Scott Adkins' age?
Well, he's 48 right now.
Okay, he's 48.
So that's okay.
Now, I don't know that James Gunn was thinking of a Batman that much older. I think when he was thinking of an older Batman, he was thinking like 35, like not a 27-year-old, 25-year-old Batman,
not
right?
Not a Pattinson one.
Not a Pattinson, but Pattinson's 40 now.
Yeah, but in that movie, he was supposed to be way younger.
Plays younger, yeah. I don't know that he was thinking that old. But again, if they were to announce tomorrow that Scott was going to be Batman, sign me up. I'd be totally up for it. Admittedly, maybe not my first choice, but I'd be like, you go. Let's make this. I'd be down for it. And you're right. He'd be the best ever at bringing the physicality to Batman. You wouldn't even need a stunt double, ever. Like he could do it all himself. All right. Next up, Jojo Giraffe writes, if you had to guess, what chronological order do you think these next movies will eventually be released in? The next James Bond, Blade, and a new original Star Wars movie, not Mando. The limbo state of all these is incredibly disappointing. Yeah, Okay, so Blade. I mean, what else can we say about Blade, Ray?
I don't.
I'm not even certain
Right.
if that movie's I'm not saying it's not. I'm simply saying I don't think we know for certain that movie's even ever going to happen at this point. We know there will be a new Star Wars movie at some point. We know there will be a new James Bond at some point. I'm not 100% sure that there's going to even be a Blade movie at this point. So I'm going to put that one last.
Yeah.
I think we get a new James Bond movie. Now, we talked about on this show a little while ago that the people in charge of James Bond, the Broccoli family, and the studio, MGM, Amazon and MGM, hate each other.
Yeah.
Hate each other. And that is really holding things up. Now, whatever the specific issues are, we don't know. But I still think at the end of the day, they're going to go, okay, yeah, let's just get this thing done. It's been long enough. Let's get it done. It's not incompetence that's holding a James Bond movie back. It's personality disputes. And I think they can get past that.
Yeah.
The thing holding back Star Wars is incompetence. That's what, and incompetence does, you don't change your mind on incompetence overnight. Their inept handling of this franchise is legendary. And so I would say my guess is, and it's just a guess, that the next movie up out of those three will be a James Bond film. The one after that will be a Star Wars film. And then hopefully at some point we get the Blade film. That's my guess. All right. Thanks for the question, Jojo. Matan Valinsky writes, if one of these made an animated film, which one would you be most excited to see? A Christopher Nolan animated film, a Denis Villeneuve animated film, a Martin Scorsese animated film, or a Quentin Tarantino animated film? That's a good question.
I would go Tarantino.
I would absolutely go Tarantino.
Oh my God. Imagine what his mind would be.
Because the way look, I'm not saying Tarantino is the best director on that list. He's not. Well, I mean, there's an argument to be made, but it's not because I think he's the best director on the list. I just think that the mind of Quentin Tarantino
exactly
would be the most conducive to an animated film. Because you let that guy's imagination just go bonkers. I think, like, look, I would sign up for any of these. A Christopher Nolan animated film, a Denis Villeneuve animated film, like, absolutely I would be. But I just think that Quentin Tarantino's imagination and his mind frame.
And who was the other one?
Scorsese.
Scorsese, okay.
Scorsese would make something wonderful and deep and all that kind of stuff.
Here's how I'm going to do it. Quentin Tarantino, any animated he wants to do. Villeneuve, I will do stop motion. Yeah. Christopher Nolan, more like a Pixar, like sci-fi Pixar sort of style. And for Scorsese, I would do the good old silent black and white
cinema.
Cartoon. There you go.
True cinema. But yeah, I like that question. I would think a Quentin Tarantino one would be really fun to see. All right. Next up, we've got Tron, who writes, regarding Den of Thieves 2, we've seen films that didn't do great at the box office get sequels because it finds a second life on VOD, streaming and cable, like The Accountant. That's not why The Accountant's got a second film. Just so you know, that's not why The Accountant got a second film. Not everything is about box office. Yes, it is. At the same, this film should have came out 4 years ago. I just don't. Here's the thing about Den of Thieves. The thing that confuses me most about Den of Thieves getting a sequel, and I'm somebody who didn't mind the first film. I got a kick out of it. I'm a sucker for heist movies. Wasn't just that it made no money at the box office. No one ever talks about Den of Thieves. I don't know in the history of my channel, and maybe somebody can find an example where it did. It'd be great if you could, but off the top of my head, I can think of number of times that The Accountant has come up. The Accountant's come up a bunch of times over the years, Ray, on our channel. That people, either us bringing it up or people writing in questions about it. I cannot think of one time that anybody has brought up the movie Den of Thieves, it's not like it became some cult classic. It's not like it found some big second life. It just, no one ever talked about it. That's why I'm so shocked that it ended up getting a sequel.
I think if we look hard enough, there might be one of a Den of Thieves in every genre of film. Like okay, let's say Greenland. Remember that Greenland? Yep. They're still making a sequel to that. But whenever we talk about natural disaster movies, none of us ever mention it. But I liked it. It has a special place in my heart.
Greenland has been brought up a lot on our... Yeah, it's been brought up a lot. And that was a really inexpensive movie that actually did pretty well for how much it cost. And they didn't wait 7 years, to go into it. So,
do you think someone has friends in Den of Thieves? Do you think someone owes people favors to make a movie?
Maybe
there
might be a contractual thing, or it could be one of those things where somebody just came to them and said, we've got a great idea. And maybe they look at it, and if the budget is small enough, again, I'm not saying they shouldn't make Den of Thieves 2. I'm just saying why I was so surprised that they made it. Because again, did terrible at the box office. It was forever ago. No one ever talks about that movie. It never found some big second life on second screens. Again, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying I'm surprised they did.
Could it be a Fast and the Furious situation? Remember the first one, and then they went into the second one and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
But the first one was big. That's like the thing.
But did you actually like the first one?
I didn't, but a lot of people did. And the only reason I didn't like the first one is because it was too much of a Point Break ripoff.
Right.
But it had a big fan base. A lot of people loved the film, and for its budget, it did very well. And so they made a sequel. And then it got, but again, Den of Thieves, look up the year Den of Thieves came out.
Sure.
Because I think it was at least 6 years ago.
Sure, let me look.
I think it was, it might even have been longer than that. So, 2 Den, 2 Thieves, says Moses Perez in the live chat.
2018.
So we're talking, 7 years ago. This is 7 years ago.
Oh, Master Chief is in this. Pablo Schreiber.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was kind of the big bad guy in it. Nobody saw it. It never got a big second life. And no one talks about it. And then it came out and got a sequel.
Is Gerard Butler still involved in it?
Yeah, he's still in it.
Well, okay. I like Gerard Butler.
And O'Shea Jackson, so Ice Cube's kid.
All right. 50 Cent still in it?
I can't remember. No, I haven't seen him in the marketing.
Oh, okay.
Haven't seen him in the marketing.
He did join Expendables, though. And we walked out of that movie.
Oh, God. Don't even get me going on that. Anyway. All right. Next up. We've got Elif, who writes, "Hey, John and crew, I hope you guys are out there okay. A lot of us folks are fleeing their houses due to the wildfire. I heard Universal Studios Hollywood is shut down today. Stay safe." Yeah, it's kind of freaky. Ann and I were laying in bed last night and popped on YouTube and saw a bunch of local news coverages of like neighborhoods. Because oftentimes in LA, when these big fires are happening, they're in these wilderness areas and secluded areas, and maybe they get close to a town. But like we're watching last night, and it's like, no, it was neighborhoods burning.
Yeah, there was a house in Burbank. It said house in Burbank.
In Burbank?
Yeah, there's just a house. But something like that with these winds, even if it's a small fire in a small house,
fire in these
it will catch. It could get horrible so fast. So I'm hoping, I never finished the telecast, that they took care of that house fire. But yeah, there was a house in Burbank that was on fire.
I remember this morning reading like Mark Hamill saying that literally he stepped out in the front of his house, turned to his left, he could see fires, turned to his right, he could see fire. And that's they waited the last minute, but Mark Hamill having to abandon his house and flee.
These winds came out. No, I didn't even know we were supposed to have a wind problem these past 2 days.
Yeah, the winds have been nuts. The winds have been like blow you off your feet kind of stuff.
This is how bad it is in the house. Like I actually have to stay silent for a second just to make sure it's not an earthquake.
Yeah,
that's how strong the winds are
and everything. Yeah,
the gushes are right now.
All right. Hopefully, so far we're not under any fire warning here, but we're having to keep our eyes on it to make sure it stays that way. All right. Next up, James LH writes, "Hey John, one of two. My films of 2024. These are UK releases, so I start with Zone of Interest, as that was released in February. Fair enough. I also include Paddington in Peru. I cannot wait to watch that. Not as good as the previous two, but I had a really fun time with Paddington. The rest of my list include The Fall Guy. Love that. Count of Monte Cristo, Wicked, Conclave, Anora, Furiosa, Deadpool and Wolverine. My number one, though, is easily Dune Part 2. You know me, I think Dune Part 2 is the best movie made in the last 10 years, let alone this year. The fact that it is not looking like it's going to win Best Picture to me is a complete joke, but hey, whatever, it is what it is. All right. Mandy's Cabrales writes, "Hey, John and crew, I love the way Kenneth Branagh directed Thor. He's a wonderful director. And how he used mythological and fantastical elements, which makes me curious to see a Wonder Woman film directed by him. I think he would be a great option. Again, X director doing X movie. It's all I care about is it a good director? But so if they announced tomorrow that Kenneth Branagh was going to do a Wonder Woman movie for James Gunn and DC, I would be thrilled. Because just even with Thor aside, Kenneth Branagh is one of my favorite directors. I mean, with that Shakespearean background that he has, he just brings a certain gravitas to his projects. Not that I've loved every single one of the movies he's directed, but I think he's a truly gifted director. And again, the Shakespearean background is everything, which really served him well in that first Thor movie, which I think is the second most underrated comic book movie of all time. Man of Steel is clearly, there he is clearly the most underrated comic book film of all time. But I think Thor is the second most underrated comic book film of all time. And so does it have to be Kenneth Branagh? No. But if they did announce Kenneth Branagh tomorrow, I would be very happy. All right. Next up, in an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, Superman writes, "Hallelujah. If this report is true," I'm assuming you're talking about the T'Challa thing, they finally did what they should have done in the first place and recast. My theory is that a future version of T'Challa Jr. is merged into the timeline at the end of Secret Wars. My vote is for Denzel's son as a candidate. I'm assuming you mean John David Washington. I don't think it's going to be T'Challa's kid, who is also named T'Challa. I think they're talking about actually recasting because, well, T'Challa's kid does have the name T'Challa. It's not T'Challa. T'Challa is an important character. And I think if they're talking about recasting, because if you're just making it T'Challa's kid, then that's not a recast.
No, he was saying it was a future, right? A future T'Challa in a different timeline.
No. A future T'Challa's kid.
Oh, okay. I thought he meant like in a different timeline from the future.
No, because you can see here, he writes, they should have in the first place recast. My theory is that a future version of T'Challa Jr.
Oh.
So, but that wouldn't be a recast.
Yeah.
Right? A recast means recasting Chadwick Boseman's character. So I really believe that's what they need to do. And I think that's what they're referring to in this. Right. So we'll see. All right. Next up, last one of the day comes us from Tristan Thorpe, who writes, "Easily the best part about Godzilla Kong's New Empire for me was when Kong took the little monkey and started using him as a weapon against the other monkeys." Oh, yeah. Been a while since I laughed that hard, honestly.
That was funny.
Look, here's the thing about Godzilla X Kong. It is not Shakespeare. Godzilla X Kong is not Shakespeare. But it gave me so much joy.
It was so funny. I keep forgetting about that.
That thing, was it stupid? Yes, it was stupid.
The little baby.
But was it hilarious?
That baby.
Was hilarious. And even if it was for that scene, just the very fact that we had a giant monster literally in Tito Santana fashion, suplexing another kaiju. Like literally, boom, was the greatest cinematic moment in history. I thought that was the great. I'm like, is he about to suplex him? Oh my God, I think he's about to suplex him. And he suplexes him. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
And it's like, when you think about it, the only time ever in fiction, nonfiction, where an adult can take a child and use him
as a physical weapon.
where no one had a problem with it at all.
All good. All good. No issues at all.
No problem. No complaints anywhere. Everyone was like, yes, that's what you should have done.
This is exactly what should happen in this moment. Exactly. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the only guy in the room here right now, Ray Ora.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Big thank you to you guys. Make sure you come on back and join us again for tomorrow's show. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.